All right, here we go. Let's go on this Wednesday. Another big day. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Karen Reed. Yep. We are. Let me check the audio. I think we're going to be good to go. Yep. I see X. I think X is fine. Let me check the audio. And it is. We're going to be good to go. Yep. X is nice and clear. Let me check YouTube as our YouTube audience continues to grow. And it does. Nope. Let's see. There's that. And it should be coming in right there. Unless I don't think there was a problem with YouTube yesterday, but I will double check it. Facebook should be fine. Folks, again, a delightful day. A delightful, nice weather day, as a matter of fact. Keith DePietro's birthday today. Okay, let me check and we're live. Yep. I think that sound is fine. Nice weather day. Yes, and it is. There's Heather, and there's Richard. Okay, let me check. Yep, and Mary Ann. Now that's our Facebook and we're live crowd, so to speak. Let me just double check here on our YouTube link right there as well. And I think we're going to be fine with that. I don't know why we wouldn't be. Put it that way. Folks, we have to check all the connections. It's just part of it. No one said it was easy. Disaster day for the defense. I don't think that way. All right, so that's the Facebook page. Oh, hold on. Okay, now we can do that. And let me just check YouTube. If you want to YouTube. Yes. Okay. I mean, I think YouTube is fine. I don't know why I didn't get a notification for it. Yes, it is. I mean, yes. Watching from Poland. Roger says he's ready to go. I'm telling you, Johnny. Everybody follow. Thank you all our new subscribers on YouTube. Yep. There's Debbie B. Voice of Reason. I'm going to map it out for you, folks. Yep. And Roger says we are good to go as well. So no court tomorrow. No court tomorrow because of the weather. How about that? Because it's supposed to be very warm out. But that's good. Days off. They're running ahead of schedule, said the judge. That's certainly not a bad thing in any way. Nothing bad about that. Okay, and we're going to begin. Yes. Just get there it is. Okay, we're going to begin on this Wednesday. Folks, good afternoon. Yes, here we are again. This is the real news. I am the chosen one. Yes, folks, objective, unbiased, down the middle, call them as I see them, experience covering different trials. I'm going to tell you about, obviously, the Karen Reed trial, and we'll cover any other news that pops up. This still, to me, remains the big story. And it's only a half day, big morning, excuse me. But right now, we are live on X. We are live on YouTube. Make sure you follow the page. We're live on Facebook. We're also live, where we're unique, on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. And you can always listen online at our website, DePietro.com. I was going to have a police officer as a guest. Because of a conflict, he's unable to. But I did get a statement from former Lieutenant of Providence Police, Danny Gannon, who's an expert. I'm going to read to you his statement that he provided for the program exclusively in just a moment. But folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. You know, they have everything you need, especially this week. People, after all that rain in the month of May, people are outside with annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging impatiens, pansy, marigold bags, large selection of beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandevillas, hibiscus plants, screen loom mulch is available. Stop in and see them. They are a full-scale nursery. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They're open 7 days a week. They grind it. 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Now, right off of Route 4. Now, our website, links to all of our social media. You can find our TikTok page. To date, I have the single highest number of views on TikTok involving the Karen Read trial. I do. 5.5 million. You can link to our TikTok, 5.5 million on TikTok. I did that. You can link at the website, depetro.com, along with links to Instagram. Continues to grow. We should be at 60,000 followers by the end of this month or the next 2 months. Also, obviously, X, Facebook, YouTube. I know, listen, you can't be everywhere, but it's brought to you by the Coesit Inn, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. They're waiting for you at the Coesit Inn. Now, what I want to do is I want to touch on how I got involved, just a little background, how I got involved in the case, some of the comments I see, obviously what happened today, because what happened today is actually pretty significant. And where should I begin? I just want to back up just for a moment. I see some comments from people, and they're foolish comments. They're actually not worth responding to, but they're people saying, how much is the Commonwealth paying you? Well, that's foolish. Why the state of Massachusetts is not paying? I wish they were paying me to attend and cover the trial. Like, when I see that, that's a deal breaker. There's certain comments that are so absurd that they don't even warrant a response. I have been on this case since July of 2023. And that fall, I followed. At that time, it was unknown if it was going to go to trial. But something that I have firsthand experience with is the story from the defense, Karen Read defense. Their story has evolved and keeps changing. And so I wanted to have former Danny Gannon on, but I asked him, and he did offer this statement. A suspect changes their story to explain away and adapt to evolving events. A suspect, or defendant in this case, but a suspect changes their story to explain away and adapt to evolving events. If someone is telling the truth, there's no need to change stories. Whose story has never changed? Jen McCabe's story has never changed. Kerry Roberts' story has never changed. Nuttall, first responder, has never changed. Katie McLaughlin's story has never changed. The Commonwealth eyewitness stories, they've never changed. What story keeps changing in real time? Karen Read's story kept changing. It was changing that morning, that day. And I want to touch on, I ran into someone this morning, and I won't say who, but she's been following the case. As a matter of fact, she was listening and watching the trial as I bumped into this person. And we discussed it just a little bit because neither one of us had a lot of time. But she said, well, I think it was an accident. Folks, let me explain to you, and I'm very clear, and I was very clear on Court TV about this, my view of this. And by the way, thank you. I was on with Julie Grant this morning. I'll be on Court TV, scheduled for the week. Later today at 2 o'clock, as an honorary towel, I will be on with Grant for all towels. He is the Supreme President towel, but I'll be with the towel coming up at 2. I was on with Kevin Lenahan, is just the best. I was on with Yellow Cottage Tales, but I'll be on Court TV tomorrow night with Vinny at, I think it's 9 o'clock. And then Friday, live, 3 o'clock on Fox Nation, streaming. And let me tell you what I tell them. For anyone that says that this was an accident, keep in mind, this is a murder too. That's what they're alleging. This is a murder trial. And I'll admit, when I first heard the case, That was my thought. All right, well, maybe it was an accident. Karen Reed was initially charged with manslaughter, but then when they received more evidence, when they did more investigating, they upped it to a murder 2 charge. And here's the part, there's just a couple of key things, and you got to cut through clutter. You got to cut through clutter. And I attended the Super Bowl in Jacksonville, 2005. I was on Radio Row for the whole week. I was in Jacksonville for 11 days. That was Patriots Eagles. And I was working for a Boston radio station, who, by the way, a Boston radio station who got very upset because I interviewed, who did I have on as a guest that they were very upset about? Dave Portnoy of Barstool at the time. But anyhow, that's a story for another day. That was really the reason that things got bad between me and the station of Boston. But anyhow, Joe Montana, when I had a chance to interview him on Radio Row at the Super Bowl in Jacksonville, one of the things I remembered was he said that the whole focus for him was, you're in a football stadium and there's 2 minutes left and there's 80,000 people screaming and, there's all kinds of noise coming from the stands, and he is zoned in on the end zone. He would put himself, Joe Montana, into a zone that he would just focus on moving the ball down the field. He had the ability to block out all of the noise and everything going on in the stands and the crowd and just totally zone in on that. And I encourage some of you, to me, that's really the way to sometimes approach a trial like this, because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of distractions. But the fact of the matter is, and this is actually really simple, and it all comes down to this. In 1992, when Bill Clinton was running for office with James Carville in the War Room and George Stephanopoulos, and I've met all three. I've met President Clinton, I've met Carville, and then I've also met George Stephanopoulos. But what they talked about, and they had it written, a lot of people don't understand this, but it was written on the wall in the Clinton War Room, was it's the economy, stupid. And when people say that, sometimes they don't understand what it means. But what it means is when it all comes back to that, and there were all kinds of distractions with the Clinton campaign. You had Jennifer Flowers and some of these deals that went on in Arkansas and all these different, but what they focused on was almost like their mission statement. When you're out there, just remember, the only thing that matters is to talk about the economy. Just keep bringing it back to the economy. And with the Karen Reed trial, for all of these people, and I see people, what's wrong with you? I'm so disappointed in you. That's what they say to me. They forget, or they disregard that I followed this case since July of 1983. That this is the second trial I've sat in on. That's all put off to the side, right? But and I'm not going to follow you anymore, and you're lying, and all this other nonsense. And that's what it is, nonsense. I didn't know if this case was ever going to go to trial. At the time, there were people saying it was never going to go to trial, but it did go to trial. But with all the noise around this, it's really kind of a simple case. Ready? She went forward with her Lexus SUV. They were fighting. She was hammered, right? Had a drinking problem, no question about it. Functioning alcoholic Karen Reed. She went forward with her vehicle and then floored it backwards. And then John O'Keefe's phone never moved again. He got out of her Lexus, 34 Fairview, by the flagpole, because she kept moving up. She kept moving the car. Jen McCabe saw it in 3 different places. She went forward and then floored it backwards. Why is that significant? Because that's not an accident. I mentioned last week there was an accident, a woman backing up in her driveway. She hit her husband and dog, and he was elderly. And I think at least he died. Maybe the dog also died. Yesterday in Cranston, a guy's in critical condition, was pinned under a vehicle. But this was not to quote Jaws, this wasn't a boating accident. She went forward and floored it in reverse. Under Massachusetts law, it doesn't matter if she was just trying to scare him. It doesn't matter if she thought he had gone over to the grass. That doesn't come into play. For murder two, it's not a question of she didn't intend it. Did you move forward to get a little more runway and then floor it backwards? She didn't go back 5 miles an hour. She didn't go back 3 miles an hour. Yesterday, I was backing my vehicle out of my garage. I purposely now look at how fast I'm going. I back up under 5 miles an hour. Most of us do. So, no. She went forward, and then she backed up, and then his phone never moved again. And the defense has not contested that. The defense is trying to punch holes in all these different stuff with plow drivers. But I'm telling you right now, in that courthouse, in that courtroom, until the defense can change that narrative, that's the narrative with this jury. She went forward, and they peered up his phone in her Lexus, and then she backed up. That wasn't an accident. And I think she did see him. I said that on court TV the other night. Some people have said, well, when she said he didn't look mortally wounded, I think she did see him. I think the voicemails prove to me that she saw him. Now, I'm going to talk about the witnesses today, but this isn't about dog bites. That lady was a joke. Oh, the limo. Oh, Alessi wrote your report and told you what to say in the limo. Isn't that interesting? She's not even a dog bite expert. She came for a free trip from LA, and now she's trying to market herself. Hank Brennan knows more. Hank Brennan's more of a dog expert than that lady. Marie Russell. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by Propane Plus. Call them today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. For all your heating and cooling, you can depend on Propane Plus. They have a very user-friendly website. Log on at propaneplus.com. You just type in your zip code, residential or commercial. I implore you to contact Propane Plus. You can either call them or you could just go online. It's very easy. propaneplus.com. Heating and cooling. It's Propane Plus. Also, this portion of our program, yes, brought to you by ServPro Providence. Serve online, servproprovidence.com. Remember, disaster strikes, fire, water damage, flood, ServPro Providence, 24/7. When disaster strikes, everything changes. That's where ServPro of Providence comes in. Water damage, fire, mold. Call them, 401-941-5500. Call them at 3 a.m., they answer. Call them at 5 a.m., they answer. Call them on a Sunday at midnight, they answer. This is who I would call, ServPro Providence, 401-941-5500. So as I just laid out for you, right now in that courtroom, they have her on murder two. I'm telling you right now, they have her on murder two. Where's the big defense? Where's the defense? The lady they just wasted time with? Were you at the waterfall? And what did you hear Jen McCabe say to Karen? You're coming with me. Oh, that must be like a gang signal. You know what that is to the jury? That's a wasted witness. It's a wasted witness. The jury has the day off tomorrow. What's the jury going to be thinking about? Lucky Loughran, who was threatened by a dirtbag, who was threatening him and recording him without his knowledge? Is that what they're going to remember? Are they going to remember Marie Russell, the lady who's said that a dog bit someone, but there was no puncture marks, that doesn't know the difference between bites or scratches? You know what the jury thinks? So what are they implying? That John O'Keefe got hit by Karen and then a dog attacked him? Dr. Wolf testified that his head hit the ground so hard that he was brain damaged from it. Dr. Wolf, the neurosurgeon, brain surgeon from Miami, testified that he's quite certain John O'Keefe was basically unconscious once he hit the ground. Dr. Welcher put on a fantastic memorable demonstration. You don't believe me? Say to the jury, what do you think of when you hear blue paint? That is a significant demonstration or reconstruction. That's what they're thinking of. You know what the jury's thinking right now? When does the defense start? Where are the witnesses? I thought Karen said a more, much more vigorous. When? Where? Who? Lucky? Who? Some lady that was there that night who heard Jen McCabe say to Karen, "You're going to ride with me, or why don't you, you guys are coming over with us to the house. Why don't you come? You're welcome to join us." So you're welcome to come with us over to her brother-in-law's house. That's now akin to murder. What is that, a threat? That's the witness. That's the witness they just wasted time on. Lucky Loughran, I mean, Hank Brennan illustrated. I didn't even know that. They were threatening his brother. They were threatening him. They were calling his boss. He didn't even see the dumpster. He wasn't looking for that. He wasn't supposed to be looking for a body. He's colorblind. Seems like a nice enough guy. Now they're threatening his family. You have to say you didn't see him. I'll bet he didn't see him. So what? So when does that affect what happened? It doesn't. I don't think that it has any bearing. Barros, yesterday, Officer Barros on recross, Hank Brennan got Officer Barros, who traveled 90 minutes, go to the hotel. Isn't that interesting? Limos, hotel meetings. David Yannetti has an office in Dedham. He told it to every jury. Good afternoon, I'm David Yannetti. I have an office in Boston and right here in Dedham. And I'm proud to be representing Karen Reed. He said that. So why drive to the hotel? What was that all about? Is there something being promised? There are a number of people. Do you see a pattern here? Talking with the ARCA witnesses by Signal app, right? Can't be decoded that way. Hidden communication with the Signal app. We're meeting at hotels. We're bringing Marie Russell in, and then we're going to give her a ride in a limo. Do you understand? Do you see the nature? They're threatening another witness with perjury if she didn't continue, even though she said, I spaced out. I wasn't even there when they were in the garage. And I believed her. And now we're hearing, various people were threatened. What do you think the jury is thinking right now? Nothing good. The jury's thinking that nothing has changed. It's all still out by the flagpole. There's nothing about the house. There's nothing about Colin Albert. You know what I was told when I was first told the story? That John was lured into the house. It was a cop party. It was a trap. They lured him into the house because he was digging too deep. That Colin Albert, that's what I was told, July of 23. Colin Albert is a dangerous drug dealer. I wasn't told he was a high school student. They lured him in. He was sniffing into drug dealing. None of it proven. All lies. All lies. I was also told there was a witness named Steve Scanlon. Steve Scanlon, who one of the witnesses confessed to him that O'Keefe had been in the house and been killed. It's interesting. When is Scanlon going to take the stand? He didn't testify in the first trial. I haven't heard any talk of him testifying now. He denies that conversation ever took place. So why does one side keep changing their story? The prosecution has narrowed down their story. So I want to touch on something also, just because I'm getting asked of, what do I think? And what's my prediction? And I will answer that, only because a number of people have asked that. But folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Kids Club on the Pike. Call them today. Now, they have a great summer camp, birthday party venue, before and after school care, preschool, Kids Club on the Pike. Call them 401-443-5336, 401-443-5336. Kids Club on the Pike. Reserve your spot. Maybe it's for a week. Maybe it's for a month. Maybe it's for the whole summer. They're located right off of 295, so it's very convenient. They're right on the Cranston-Johnson line. Yes, you can live in Massachusetts. Kids Club on the Pike, 443-5336 for Kids Club on the Pike. As of right now, with the Karen Reed trial, I was very open to this. So how did I land where I am? And I'm so disappointed. Folks, as I've said, the Karen Reed defense, they keep changing things. From the very beginning, I saw no motive, and there's no murder weapon. No motive, no murder weapon. I don't understand, frankly. There's two sides of the street. On one side of the street are the McCabe's, Kerry Roberts, the police, state police, Can Police, first responders, Katie McLaughlin, Nuttall, the doctors, the judge, Hank Brennan, Lally. Everybody's on one side of all the people in the house, Ryan Nagel, everybody's on one side of the street. On the other side of the street is Karen. I could understand if her parents say, despite that, we still believe her. I could see if her brother, who I see in court, if he said, despite that, I believe her. What I don't understand are strangers. And you could be listening or watching. You don't know her. Chances are you haven't met her. Chances are you're never going to meet her. Why on earth? This is a mystery I would never understand. Why on earth? Why would you believe her over all of those people that are standing on the other side of the street? It's not logical. After all this time, no one's cracked. Do you understand this happened in January of, it's just January of 22. In this entire time, no one has cracked. You know why no one has cracked? Because there's nothing to cover up. Let me just be very clear. That he's not in the house. The defense doesn't have him in the house. If they can place him in the house, maybe you're getting somewhere. You know what I noticed is right after Dr. Wolf, I noticed a number of Karen Reed people, including one of her chief supporters. I've noticed them starting to say, well, he hit his head when he fell downstairs in the house. They didn't say that before. I think it's interesting that after Dr. Wolf, the neurosurgeon, testified, after his testimony, people suddenly started saying, yeah, he fell down the stairs in the house. Why do they keep changing the story? I thought he was beaten in the house. I thought as soon as he walked in, he was sucker punched by Colin Albert. And we learned Colin Albert wasn't in the house at the time when John arrived on 34 Fairview. And then he was beaten to death in the basement by Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. And they had the dog attacking him, even though there's no punctures. There's no punctures. That's such an odd dog bite. Why did the dog attack just his right arm? Why did the dog attack his leg? Why did the dog attack his neck? Why did the dog bite the other leg? Wouldn't the dog be closer on the ground? Why was the dog attacking just his right arm? Why is there no dog DNA? That seems strange, doesn't it? So they keep changing the story. I'll tell you what, Karen Reed underestimated about the technology of a cell phone, the temperature of the cell phone, the temperature of John's cell phone. She thought she was driving a Lexus SUV. She was actually driving a computer. Our vehicles have computers. Our vehicles, especially the newer models. I thought that was really interesting when Dr. Welcher and Burgess illustrated that the data, the black box, if you will, is stored where the airbags are. We're actually, especially the newer models, you're really driving a computer around. Your car has information that can then be pulled, and it's only going to improve, by the way, regarding that. And also the technology of her phone and his phone. We know her phone because she was calling him. Karen Reed, going forward and then flooring it backwards and then seeing him lying there. I'll give you this. I am willing to bet she didn't know how badly he hit the ground. That one I will concede. When she was leaving those messages, I think that she thought he got up and went into the party, and she thought maybe hooking up with Bella's mom. That's what I think Karen Reed thought. The voicemails are bizarre. Why would, I'll just say this. Karen Reed has said, yeah, I was angry. He was supposed to come right out. He didn't come out. So those are the voicemails. How come she didn't leave voicemails saying, why didn't you come out? Why didn't she leave voicemails saying, listen, you were supposed to come out. I was in front of the house. You were supposed to. Why didn't she say that? The next morning, why didn't Karen Reed say to Jen, well, what happened? I saw him go in the house. Why didn't she say to Kerry Roberts and Jen McCabe, hey, Jen, what happened when he went in the house? Karen Reed didn't say that. Why did Karen Reed tell Kerry Roberts and the niece, oh, I left him at the waterfall? She didn't say that. What'd she say? Maybe a plow driver hit him. Now, that's conscious of guilt. She knew what had happened by then, because then she didn't do anything to save him. As Hank Brennan said, she called his phone 53 times, never called 911. She could have done an anonymous tip to 911. There's a man in the snow or a body in the snow. Could have done that. She didn't do that. No, she didn't do that. No, I believe she thought he got up and went into the house and then maybe was going to hook up with someone, as she said. You're a pervert. You're using me, blah, blah, blah. But then she didn't hear from him. He wasn't answering. But it wasn't an accident. Don't say it was an accident. Folks, this portion of the program brought to you by Roof Co. Rhode Island. Listen, get a free inspection for your roof. 401-868-7149. 401-868-7149 for Roof Co. Rhode Island. Maybe you have a leaky roof, or is there wind damage, or curled shingles, or granules in the gutter, damaged chimney flashing. Roof Co. Rhode Island for a free estimate. 401-868-7149. 401-868-7149. Free estimate. It'll improve the value of your home or business with a brand new roof from Roof Co. Rhode Island. Why not call them? They'll give you a free estimate. Go up, check it out. Hey, maybe through your insurance company, they'll pay for the whole thing. Roof Co. Rhode Island. At least call them for the free estimate. 401-868-7149. So what do I think of the witnesses the past 2 days with the Karen Reed trial? What do I think? All right, let's talk about Marie Russell. Where are they going with this? A dog. I think those are dog bites. A dog was biting him outside. Did Marie Russell get him inside the house? No. Even if the jury say, well, maybe they do look like dog bites. Maybe they do. Was the dog attacking him in the driveway? Is the homeowner going to be charged for letting his dog out and then the dog attacked John as he was lying there? Because make no mistake about it, in the mind of the jury, she hit him and it was all by the flagpole. Nothing has changed that dynamic. People have asked me, someone was asking me, so what do you think? Listen, you don't know. We don't even know who the jury's going to be. There's 18 people in there. 12 will be chosen. We don't know who anyone that tells you, you don't know who the 12 are going to be. There's 18 of them. 12 are going to be chosen. That's number one. Number two, let's let the trial play out. Could the defense cut into the prosecution narrative? Maybe. Does the defense come up with something very memorable in closing? It's possible. So I believe, I don't make predictions this far out. This is like someone in the fifth inning. So what do you think is who's going to, well, it's actually not the fifth inning. It's really the eighth inning. But it's not it's an unusual case. A lot of different things unusual about this. In some ways, it's typical. There's no eyewitness. There's a lot of misinformation put out there. And most of the time, pedestrian strikes are the vehicles moving forward, not backing up. Most of the time. There are situations where someone, domestic violence situations where they take the life of someone, but it's normally they're going forward. There was a guy in Woonsocket last summer killed. He was run over by someone, but the individual was going forward. So I believe we don't know. If I'm in court when they make closing arguments and I can see the 12 on the jury, then I might be able to venture a guess. But until then, I don't see how you could. I don't see how anyone could, simply because there is, as of right now, simply because there is, it's an unknown. You don't know who the 12 are that are going to be selected for this. And then on top of that, we don't know what final witnesses the defense may put on, or we don't know that, who the witnesses the defense may put on, or what the closing could be. Last time in closing argument, Adam Lally didn't time it right, and he ran out of time. That was not strong. But how are the witnesses? The officer from Dighton, I don't know what to make of that guy. What I do know is when Hank Brennan said over here, he was looking to the defense for guidance. That is totally in bounds. He wasn't looking at the person questioning him. He was looking at Alan Jackson. Like, what's going on here? What am I supposed to be saying? We didn't rehearse what I should say. Alan Jackson, I think it's also interesting. He has this interesting, he puts his hand to the left. I wonder if I don't know. I wonder if that's a signal to the witness. If you see me put my left hand up, just go over what we had talked about. Just recite exactly what we had rehearsed, because it's clear he didn't seem rehearsed what to say when Hank Brennan asked him, "Oh, really? Where'd you meet?" "Yeah, I drove 90 minutes to their hotel." "Really? Drove to meet? Not at Yannetti's office in Dedham." So there's no record of the conversation. There's no email. It wasn't a phone call. Went and met in person. That's interesting. And so he seemed very uncomfortable with that. So what do I think about Officer Burroughs? Well, at the very end of his cross-examination, the recross with Hank Brennan, he admitted that the taillight really hadn't changed from what he saw that morning to what he then saw later in the day after they had towed it. So to me, it was a wash. What did I think of Marie Russell? I don't think there were no piercings. A dog bite, a dog bit him. Where did the dog bite him? Out by the flagpole? Outside? Where is that leading? Do you understand? This in no way is cutting into the narrative that she went forward, backed up, and then his cell phone never moved again. It was also because of Dr. Russell. Hank Brennan got to walk the jury through all of the evidence again because she opened the door on that. Now, as far as did the woman that testified this morning, did that in any way? Did that change the dynamic in any way? I heard Jen McCabe say to Karen, "Hey, why don't you guys come over?" Is that a kid? That's a murder plot? That's the final word? Is that code for something? Am I missing something? I don't think that made any dent. And as far as Lucky Loughran, I don't know what to make of that. He seems like a nice guy. He didn't notice anyone on the lawn. He wasn't supposed to be looking for anyone on the lawn. He also didn't notice anyone else's lawn. He also seems confused on the time of exactly when he went. You know what else came out was there was a false defense narrative. This one fell as well. There was a false defense narrative that Michael Proctor never interviewed Lucky Loughran. Well, what we learned was when Michael Proctor spoke to Lucky Loughran's boss, his boss told him they only plowed the main roads. So his boss, by mistake, I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt, the boss of Lucky at Canton Public Works, he mistakenly gave wrong information to Michael Proctor, the investigator, because he said, no, only the main roads were plowed. So Proctor, you're not going to bother to interview someone if they said they only plowed the main roads. So they weren't hiding anything. Do you see where everything becomes nefarious if you wanted to? Much like people saying, how are there no broken bones? Well, when someone's deceased, you don't start putting them through all these medical tests. If someone poisoned, maybe you do a lot of tests to try to determine how were they poisoned. If someone suddenly dropped dead, maybe you would do that. But if someone comes in and they have a 3-inch gash on the back of their head and their body temperature is 80 degrees and they're deceased when they arrive at the hospital, you don't start doing medical evaluations on them for the next few hours. You send them to the medical examiner for cause of death, blunt force trauma. And it certainly didn't help that essentially he was left out in the cold after she hit him from 12:30 to when he was found at 6 o'clock in the morning. And keep in mind, temperatures were in the single digits and he had been lying on a cold ground all night. And so you're not going to say, now let's put him through a bunch of MRIs. So people have said, how did she hit him and no broken bones? Well, the fact of the matter is you don't do x-rays on someone that's already deceased. Do you see the trickery involved with that? Do you see how it's presented one way, but then you uncover what really happened? Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by J. Perry Paving. Call them today. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. Letter J, J. Perry Paving. 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730. Letter J, J. Perry Paving. Now, Father's Day is coming up. You know what your dad would love? To get his driveway paved. Call today. Free estimate. Get that driveway paved. And remember, if you're listening right now, AM 1380 or 99.9 FM, or maybe you're listening online at DePetro.com, or you're watching on X or YouTube or on Facebook, if you're a veteran or you're related to a veteran, they have a special package for veterans. Call them 401-732-1730. You can also look for them. Their social media is very, very strong as well. So in recapping the situation with the Karen Read trial, so to me, this still comes back to, have they overcome the narrative that Karen backed up and then his cell phone never moved again and she had a broken taillight? So what did we hear yesterday? They're debating, the officer, was the taillight cracked or broken? Does that really make a difference? I also don't understand these people. There's no evidence she hit him with her car. She was talking about the taillight that morning. I mean, I think people have a false sense of what has to be proven in court. She's backing up, right? The Lexus has her backing up. The Lexus has her accelerating at 75%. So she floors it. She moves forward and then backwards. She moves forward and backwards. His body is found, and there's a debris field of taillight, and she has a broken taillight. And there are people that say there's no evidence that her vehicle hit him. Do you really believe that? Like I've said before, are we to believe? So are these the same people that if at 11 o'clock you look out the window and your backyard is, normal, and then you wake up at 7 o'clock the next morning and it's got an inch of snow on it? Do you really spend the rest of the day wondering what happened that night? Is it really that much of a mystery to what happened? Or do you think it must have snowed last night? I didn't check the forecast. I guess we got a little snow last night. I didn't realize that. I didn't know like that. But it's really not a big mystery. Or do you go through the day saying, well, I know I didn't see it snowing. And I went to bed at 11. There was no snow. I woke up. There was. But I didn't see I didn't see it snowing. I can't honestly say that it snowed because I didn't see that. He was found with a gash on the back of his head. He didn't have a gunshot wound. He didn't have a knife in him. He had a gash on the back of his head. like his head had been banged into the ground. And he's in a debris field with her taillight. And some of her taillight is in his clothing. And there are still people out there that say, there's no evidence that she hit him. What would it have to be? See, this crowd, this is the conspiracy crowd. It is a wasted fool's errand to try to argue with someone that gets into the conspiracy. Even if they said, we have video, ring video from someone, what do you think they would say? That's fake. No, that's fake. No, that's not real. It's when you're chasing the conspiracy, they're not searching for the truth, her supporters. They're searching for more tidbits for the conspiracy. I talked about watch on HBO Max, The Truth versus Alex Jones. Do you understand in Newtown, Connecticut, there's a woman, she'd probably be a Karen Reed supporter. She's saying they need to prove to me that those kids were killed in the school. And you know what her solution was, this sick, twisted, blank maniac? Her solution was, you have to exhume the body. Let's dig up your child, and you have to prove it to me. Prove it to who? This lady was like, a greeter at Walmart. This lady was like, a no-nonsense, no big, like, what makes you the expert? First of all, imagine the pain in learning your child was killed in that school. Imagine the pain of burying that small child, to realize that they were terrified and died a very violent death. And now it comes along this nobody, a nothing, a zero, who says, you have to exhume the body. I want you to dig up your child, your 6-year-old, to prove to me that that kid died. Can you imagine, folks, where does this come from? This portion of the program, and the Karen Reed supporters are the same way. No matter what is put forward, they just chase the conspiracy. It's no point in having a conversation. I learned that last spring because they just keep going back to their talking points. They talk about red Solo cups. They talk about dog bites. There are some people that still have them in the house. I agree to appear, I should say, on television with some of these people. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing, but I agree to do it because someone's got to put the truth out there. Again, there's no evidence she hit him. Really? Right? The information shows the data. She pulled forward, backed up. His phone stopped moving 10 seconds he got out of the vehicle. And then he's found in a debris field with her taillight. But there are some people with a straight face that say there's no evidence that she struck him. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Arch Design Builders. Hey, call them. Arch, A-R-C-H, Arch Design Builders, 401-207-4124. 401-207-4124, whether it's kitchens or bathrooms or basements or decks or special projects. Arch Design Builders. Call them today. Now, you're going to be dealing with my friends, Ed and Roxanne. Call Roxanne at 401-218-9707. And it is remarkable the work they're going to do. But meet with them and show them the space. Maybe you say, here it is. Here's our kitchen. Here's our bathroom. Here's our basement. Here's the house. We want to add on an in-law apartment, whatever it may be. This is who you want to call. This is who I would call. They are delightful. I love Ed and Roxanne. I'll even go to the meeting if you want. 401-218-9707. They have another one. Great social media presence. Well, folks, good afternoon. Right now, it is 1:52. Now, they just put out the media list. It comes out now for next week. And I did not make the list for next week. So there's nothing I can do. Boom, boom, boom. They're not really a newspaper, but oh, there you go. Big windows. Okay. Lauren Crime Network, Channel 7, BZ. It just came out that way. Grant gets in. Grant will be in, which means some of the alternates will then get in. I didn't show up, folks. I can't complain. I had so much time. You know what? Actually, I have actually people have mapped this out. I have spent more time in that courtroom than anyone else in the media. So, and this stuff is nonsense that I think that's going on right now. So, and let's see how long this goes. The trial, it's very possible starting next week, could be closing arguments, could be then, you get in for the verdict. I'm not denying if my name was on the list, I would go, but I certainly know enough about it and have spent enough time. And I've also developed some sources in the courtroom, try to give you some insight on it. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Watson Materials. Call Watson Materials today. Free quote. Call Sean, 401-885-0600. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape material in Rhode Island, whether it's landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, decorative stone. Watson Materials. Call them 401-885-0600. Whatever it may be, what a difference they can make for your outside with Watson Materials. 401-885-0600. Again, landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials. 401-885-0600. So, folks, good afternoon. For Road Patrol, yes, we will be out this evening. And then tomorrow night, I'll be on Court TV. And then Friday afternoon, streaming live on Fox Nation with Paul Morrow. So just to recap the Karen Reed case, they had Lucky Loughran, the plow driver, was on the stand, and he testified, seemingly to the best of his ability, that he thinks that when he went by 34 Fairview, that he did not see anybody out on the lawn. But you know what? No one else saw anybody on the lawn. No one else saw John O'Keefe. So that's actually consistent with what the witnesses said, that when they were leaving the house, that no one else saw him. So the street light wasn't working. It's very possible that it was snowing, and just the way that you wouldn't be plowing unless there was some sense of snow on the ground. So it's very possible that he'd already been covered, and just the way it was pitch black, it was howling. You're not looking for someone. You're not looking at their lawns. You're not looking at their front walks. You're not looking for it. Think of when you're driving along. When I'm driving along at night, what do I see? Do I see if there's a deer by the roadside? Not unless they run in front of my vehicle, I don't. There could be various things alongside of the road. We're not looking for that. And I would believe in a blizzard condition, as is in this Franken truck, that you are just looking straight ahead. So I believe that it's possible. They had another witness, and it's a woman that said she heard Jen McCabe say to Karen Reed, why don't you guys come over? Something akin to that. Is that damaging? Does that blow open the case? I don't think so. Officer Barros yesterday, I thought Hank Brennan, who is the king of the courtroom, Hank Brennan is control of that courtroom. Hank Brennan, he has spoken to the jury more than anyone else. Hank Brennan, the special prosecutor, I believe he's developed a rapport with the jury. I think they notice when he speaks. There's a difference when he speaks. The jury sees the rapport he has with the witnesses. They see the way the judge talks to him. I think right now, Hank Brennan is a very powerful force in that courtroom, inside the courtroom. Inside the courtroom. I also believe the defense, in using three attorneys, right? Robert Alessi, who I like Alessi, by the way. I like Alessi. I actually find him kind of entertaining. Alessi, Jackson Yannetti, by splitting things up, I just don't think anyone's gotten into a rhythm. And Hank Brennan is very good on cross-examination, I believe. And I think everyone is seeing that. So I'll say this, for those that are following it, and it is an interesting case. It's different, right? Boston police officer killed by his girlfriend, who turns around and creates a conspiracy and tries to blame his friends, even though I think a lot of it has kind of fallen by the wayside. There's not a lot of women that are up on murder charges. It's a murder 2 case. You don't have a lot of professional women. She was adjunct professor, I think, on finance at Bentley. So, you know, there's a unique element to the case. I think there's a lot of people that like the idea that maybe this happened because it's a better story than a hit and run. But as of right now, I'll believe the defense is doing a good job if they can change the narrative that has been established by the prosecution, Hank Brennan, and the Commonwealth. That's when I'll believe the defense is doing a good job. Folks, and they haven't done that yet. They haven't done that yet. This portion, so what? Officer Barrows said, no, it didn't look like that. So what? How does that change anything? He was still found in a debris field. Quality asphalt seal coating. Call Corey today, 401-283-9815. Call Quality Asphalt Seal Coating, 401-283-9815. They'll seal coat driveways. They do line striping. They can make your pavement look like new. They can resurface a tennis court or a basketball court or a pickleball court. They can epoxy garages and patios, decorative concrete flooring. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call them today, 401-283-9815. They're another one. They have very good social media. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. So, folks, no trial tomorrow in the Karen Read trial. Full day on Friday. Let's see if the defense can poke holes in what the prosecution has laid up. I'm going to join Grant as a super towel next hour, or part of next hour. And then tomorrow night on Court TV, Friday, live on Fox Station. We will be out tonight on Road Patrol Live. In the meantime, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news.